Well, good evening, Cornerstone family. My name's Mike Berry, and it's my privilege to share the devotion tonight to kick us off. I want to ask a question: where does happiness come from? A lot of people would say that happiness comes from within, or happiness comes from favorable or earned circumstances like success, recognition, or possessions. I want to suggest that happiness comes from above. Revelation chapter 1, verse 3 says, "Blessed or happy is he who reads and those who hear the words of the prophecy and heed the things which are written in it, for the time is near." So happiness or blessedness comes from those that read and hear and heed the revelation that's been given to us by our God. Imagine for a moment that you never sinned again in this life. Do you think you'd be happy? Imagine that our church never erred. Or imagine that suddenly our world just stopped sinning and followed God's ways continuously. Do you think our world would be happy and blessed? I think so. And so happiness comes from knowing God and following in the ways that He's laid out for us. You know, God is infinitely blessed and happy. And Jesus, no doubt, was the most blessed or the most happy human being who walked the earth, though we refer to Him as a man of sorrows on this planet, who for the joy set before Him endured the cross. And saints in heaven, no doubt, are happy and blessed, those who have been removed from sin and have come into the immediate presence of God. This week our theme is, we're calling it the blessed life. A truly blessed existence or a genuinely happy life comes from hearing from the blessed God and heeding what He has revealed about Himself and His plans in history and for us. Which leads me to a happy announcement. This Saturday evening, 7:30, we will begin our exposition of the book of Revelation. Pastor Milton will be preaching a message entitled A Tantalizing Book Cover from Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 to 8. And this is going to be a truly epic series that we believe is very timely for our body. Please be praying for Pastor Milton as he prays and prepares to preach this Saturday evening. And we encourage you to invite friends and family to attend the preaching of God's revelation, where a real blessing and happiness is found. And so our devotions this week are leading up really to Saturday. Tomorrow, Thursday, Pastor Carlos will point us to the key of blessing, or the key to blessing, in Matthew chapter 7. And then Carlos Price on Friday will remind us that the blessing of doing the Word from James chapter 1, verse 25. And I'd like to take just a few minutes to really focus in on Psalm 119, just the first 8 verses, to talk about this blessed life that really comes from above, not from within, not from our circumstances, but from God Himself. And I want to make 3 points from our text. Again, this is Psalm 119, verses 1 to 8. And the first point I'm going to make is God has revealed to us the way to the blessed or happy life. He's revealed to us how to be happy and how to be blessed. It says in verse 1, "Blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the law of the Lord. Blessed are those who keep His testimonies, who seek Him with the whole heart. They also do no iniquity. They walk in His ways. You have commanded us to keep Your precepts diligently." Who is the blessed person? Who is the happy person? It's the person who walks in the ways of the Lord and who keeps His word. And really, keeping His word is equivalent to seeking Him with the whole heart. The person who, if was able to do no iniquity and to obey the commands of the Lord and to keep His precepts diligently, that would be a happy, blessed person. In fact, this particular psalm is written to us in an acrostic. Every verse in these first 8 verses starts with the Hebrew letter Aleph. And so the very first word that we have in this psalm is the word blessed, or ashrei in the Hebrew, which the idea of blessedness or blessed, it implies a state of settled satisfaction that sees the blessings of life as a consequence of an outside connection to the Creator. You know, when you use the word, I'm blessed, or this is such a blessing, that's coming from outside to you. And so there's this state of settled satisfaction that we gain when we see all of life's blessings as coming as a consequence of our connection to our Creator. And that's what this psalm means when it says, blessed are the undefiled in the way, and blessed are those who keep His testimonies. If we were to keep God's testimonies perfectly, we would be blessed and we would be happy. And God has the right to command this of us, and it's good for us to command us to keep His ways, because that would bring about the highest happiness. But there's a problem that I think you probably already sense, and that is we don't obey the Word perfectly. We don't stay in the way. And that brings me to my second point. That's there's a problem. Our sin obscures the way. There's a clear way that's been revealed to us that would bring our happiness, but our sin obscures that way. And we see this in verse 5 and 6, where the psalmist says, "Oh, that my ways were directed to keep your statutes." The psalmist expresses a sensibility of his own inability. Oh, that my ways were established or directed to keep your statutes. Then I would not be ashamed when I look into all your commandments. The psalmist has laid out for us the way of happiness, and then he says, oh, I wish that were the way my heart were. I wish that my ways were established in that way. And then when I look at the Lord's pure commands and His happy commands, I would not be ashamed when I read through the course of His law. So we see a revelation of happiness. We see the problem of attaining happiness, that sin obscures that way. But thirdly and finally, we see the solution. And that is, God Himself will teach us and lead us if we come to learn from Him. He's committed to teach us and to lead us if we will learn from Him. Look at what it says in verse 7 and 8. The psalmist says, I will praise you with uprightness of heart. When? When I learn the righteous judgments. He says, there's a day coming when I'm going to worship you because I have learned your righteous judgments. The act of learning implies that the psalmist recognizes ignorance and the need to be taught. Taught from whom? Taught from God. It says a little bit later in this chapter, verse 12, blessed are you, O Lord, teach me your statutes. God's in the business of teaching us His statutes. The psalmist wants to come and learn from the Lord, and then that learning will result in worship and praise. And then he makes a resolution in verse 8, I will keep your statutes. You're going to teach me, and I'm going to make a commitment to keep, to heed, to obey your statutes. But notice how he ends this psalm, or this part of the psalm. Oh, do not forsake me utterly. I'm committing myself to reach out and keep your statutes. Oh, do not forsake me utterly. It's kind of an interesting way to end this part of the song, to contemplate the idea that to be forsaken of God would mean the end of happiness. But if He would not forsake us, then we could move into our ultimate happiness and blessing. It makes me think of Jesus Christ Himself. You know, we come to learn of the Lord, and Jesus says in Matthew 11, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. If we could really see that God's ways really will bring a blessing and really will bring happiness, and then not get discouraged by the obscurity of our own sin, but come and learn from Christ, that He is a very willing teacher. You know, Jesus says in John 8:29, He says, "He who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone. He has not forsaken me, because I always do what pleases Him." Jesus always obeyed the Lord. He kept all of His commandments. And yet, on the cross, Jesus says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" How is it that Jesus, the one who fulfilled all the law, would be forsaken of God? He was forsaken of His Father so that we could pray the same kind of prayer that the psalmist prays, "Oh, do not forsake me utterly." The Lord will not forsake us who are in Christ, because He forsook His Son for a time on the cross to bring us close to Himself through the righteousness of Christ, who always keeps the law of the Father. And then you know the verse that Jesus says, "I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Flip that around. Anyone who comes through Christ comes to the Father. And so this is the ultimate way to our blessed life and our happiness. God has laid out for us that it is a good thing to desire to obey Him and to heed His word. But sin obscures the path. We're responsible. We're culpable. We're not making excuses. But yet we're sick and we have inability, and we need to be sensible of that, as the psalmist is, and come and learn of Christ, learn of the Lord, and He will teach us through His word. He will teach us through the Spirit that Christ has sent. And then we can resolve with the psalmist, "I will keep your statutes, but, oh Lord, do not forsake me utterly." And He promises that He will never leave us nor forsake us as we are in Christ. I hope this is an encouragement to you, and I pray that you would have a happy week and that you would seek out that blessing that comes only from above. Remember, this Saturday we're starting the book of Revelation, and encourage you to invite friends and family, and keep us updated on your prayer requests and praise reports at prayer@cornerstonebible.org. We're praying for you regularly. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.